Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I've been telling you about one of my sponsors, Masterworks, whose link will be in the top of this description. When inflation's over 3% like it is now, contemporary art prices historically appreciated 23%. Well, the Masterworks CEO was on Squawk Box this morning on CNBC. Watch the beginning of this.
Despite a market downturn and looming recession fears, the art market is soaring. This past May, it broke records with an Andy Warhol silkscreen taking the highest price ever paid for a 20th century artwork at auction, and the highest price ever for an American artist, $195 million. Join us now for a look at how some investors are hedging portfolios with their art collections. Scott Lynn, founder and CEO of Masterworks, which offers investors fractional shares of iconic works by artists like Basquiat and Banksy. You know, Scott, I'll accept anything now. With, you know, when you tell me about NFTs and I see what they go for, I'm willing to accept anything. But buying fractional shares of something, you can't hang a fractional share anywhere. It's just an investment. Right?
Well, to be clear, we've never been proponents of NFTs, so that's one thing.
I wasn't speaking about them negatively. There are a couple NFTs I would buy if I could own the proprietary rights to them.
The good news is they're 90% off now, so
yeah. So I can get them cheap. Art obviously is.
Anyway, the bottom line is you get it. They I can't believe he's skeptical. You know, if I was the CEO of Masterworks, what I would do is I would let people, like when they bought, I mean, maybe this is something I should talk to him about. What I would do is when people buy fractional shares of a piece of artwork, I would let them, if they want, have the chance at buying a what do they call it? A duplicate of the piece. So that if they want to, they can frame that and put it in their house, and then they can tell their friends, "Hey, I own a percentage of the actual piece of this," and they can actually. I would do that in a second. Maybe I need to have that. Maybe we can change the whole game at Masterworks. Anyway, I'll put a link to this in the top of the description. Now, Squawk Box also had our old buddy Mike Novogratz on. Now, before I show you how they have Mike Novogratz on. First of all, why are they having a guy that has a Luna tattoo on as a crypto expert on their show? I think Mike Novogratz had his chance. But first of all, the big elephant in the room is ETHgate, and why is Mike Novogratz being on that show and they're not asking him the question about this?
Okay, but Ethereum they haven't ruled on yet. I bet dimes to donuts. They will say Ethereum probably was a security, but it's not anymore. Why would I want to get in front?
Now remember, he said what he just said just a few days, 6/5/18. Just 9 days later, Hinman gives the speech. Plus, we also know from the Empower Organization's Freedom of Information Act request, Mike Novogratz is on the list of people that were apparently could possibly have been emailing back and forth with the SEC leading up to the Bill Hinman speech. But here's what CNBC does when they have him on, is they talk about a bunch of distraction BS.
And it seemed like there was also centralized risk in terms of the projects that a lot of these players were involved in. I mean, the spectacular collapse of Terra and Luna. I mean, you were...
By the way, folks, you do get a vibe from CNBC right now that they, and make no mistake, folks, you'll see right here, Squawk Box follows me. Make no mistake, these people know that we've been calling out the truth and that they haven't been covering it. So at some point you have to believe that they're going to go into cover their butts mode, which is what I think they're doing right now. In fact, that might be a thumbnail, cover their but mode. How about that? That might be an interesting thumbnail. I wrote it down anyway. So a lot of what they are saying to Novogratz is kind of them calling him out right now. Watch this.
Big backer of Luna. You've got a tattoo. Do you still have that tattoo, or are you working on getting rid of that thing on your arm?
I still have a tattoo. It's a good reminder that you're not always right.
But the point being that so many of these players that you're talking about that had too much leverage were all in on this particular stable coin, this algorithmic so-called stable coin and the sister token that had a spectacular collapse. I mean, the risk was concentrated in that way as well.
What we saw, and I think what hopefully doesn't repeat itself next cycle, is a horrific breakdown in risk management at companies that you would have assumed would have understood what risk management was. Listen, there are hundreds of tokens. Some are going to win and some are going to lose. And to have huge concentrations of loans, or it was just great.
Remember, this is the same guy that he's just totally confused by XRP.
Right? People got into the UST because they were providing 18%. You don't get 18% for no risk. And, that stablecoin ended up not working. Losing a small amount of money is reasonable. Losing your shirt is unreasonable. And, it's the same thing with loans to Three Arrows Capital. Having them as a counterparty, reasonably thought they were a reasonable counterparty. Betting the farm on it, not reasonable.
So if you sort of draw this argument out and follow to its logical conclusion, Mike, I mean, isn't there inherent risk in having a single player in the crypto industry, regardless of it?
Yeah, like J.P. Morgan.
Sam Bankman-Fried or somebody else.
Or Gary Gensler.
Or whoever.
Or Gary Gensler.
Have such a concentrated presence across the industry here. The risk being that, he makes a bad investment.
Let's keep it in perspective. Crypto is still close to $1 billion industry, and Sam Bankman-Fried's total holdings is a fraction of that. And so while he's a charismatic player and he's an important player in this moment, relative to the whole crypto space, he's just not that big.
Okay. This guy, the arrogance just oozes off of him. Now, listen to him tell you about how he knows Gary Gensler. You better believe he knows him.
Let's go to the aforementioned. You know all these people. You talk about a web. Did you work with Gensler?
I worked with Gary in Hong Kong at Goldman Sachs. I did.
See, all you guys are it's very incestuous. Anyway, the journal, Gary Gensler's Bitcoin land grab. What's happening? What is the rationale about a spot ETF when you've seen ETP sponsors and others where it seems to be working pretty well? Journal seems to say that if he can't be in charge, if it's not going to be under him, he's just not going to let it happen.
Yeah, listen, I know Gary. I taught his class once at MIT. He's a very smart guy. When he went in, I had great hope that he was going to be really positive for crypto. I think he has been very cautious and worried, and I'm guessing this sell-off only emboldens him.
He's not cautious and worried about anything. This guy answers to someone besides retail investors and the American people. It has nothing to do with cautious and worried. That's a lie.
It's been frustrating. Listen, I don't want to overcome it. We're with the SEC right now in our S1, S4. It's been a long and grueling process for all the crypto companies trying to get through. Very different than the Jay Clayton administration. And so, yeah, he has not been the prince of crypto as what everyone was hoping for when he came in. Because
what are you complaining about the Jay Clayton administration from what the Freedom of Information Act requests? It seems that it's possible Novogratz was communicating with the Jay Clayton administration.
He does understand it.
Okay, but that's not it, folks. We even get this one. And I said, I have a crazy idea. How about you guys get some different crypto go-to guys? Why would you go back to the guy with the Luna tattoo for more crypto advice? I think that's a pretty obvious question.
What, just off the top of your head, do you think we're near a low at this point? Because 40 wasn't, 30 wasn't. I've heard it could go support-wise to 13,000. Do you think we get 13 on Bitcoin?
I don't. Listen, this, though, was a kind of a tale as old as time. And when when the water, went out of the tide went out, what we saw was lots and lots of excessive leverage at, centralized crypto companies, ironically, not online companies, not on-chain companies, guys like Celsius, Three Arrows, BlockFi, that just had unbelievable amounts of leverage. And so we've now seen a lot of these file or put up gates, basically declare bankruptcy, and you're having this massive deleveraging. I think most of that deleveraging is out of the system. We're engaged in a lot of conversations around people that needed capital. And so the new capital that will come into crypto will literally be kind of recapping some of these companies or asset sales. And so we're going to go sideways. Listen, could we go lower? Of course we could. It feels like we're 90% through that deleveraging. The problem, of course, is for you to go much higher, you need the narrative to re-pick up and you need new capital to come in. And so my instinct is it's going to be choppy sideways for a while until either the Fed flinches and we get that macro narrative, or just the damage is healed, people get into equilibrium and the market starts going again.
Let me make a comment. I just thought of it, and I'm going to put this into a tweet. If I were CNBC, if you're listening, because you Squawk Box, if you're listening, you do follow me. So if you're listening to me, I've got a great idea. You want some views? This will get you some views. Here's the idea. You tweet out to Mike Novogratz, you say, listen, if you want to be our go-to crypto expert, the only way you're allowed to come on our channel is if you're wearing a tank top so that we can see that Luna tattoo as a reminder every time you come on the show. Now, you want some viewership? That way Mike Novogratz will draw views so that everybody can laugh about his Luna tattoo every time he comes on the show. Here we go. Now, speaking of Mike Novogratz's world, the revolving door of our government. Watch this. This is going to piss you off. Pissed me off. Let's hit the refresh button here. Everything about this is just bad, bad, folks.
We have some really great quotes from Kidney. The SEC has become an agency that polices the broken windows on the street level and rarely goes to the penthouse floors. He continues, on the rare occasions when enforcement does go to the penthouse, good manners are paramount. Tough enforcement, risky enforcement is subject to extensive negotiation and weakening. So, Jimmy,
the reason why, so people are like, well, why? Why wouldn't the SEC enforce it? What's the problem? Well, the reason why is because they're using their government job to make connections in the private sector so they can go get a job after they quit the government job and they can go cash in. And that's the revolving door of the government. And that's what's wrong. That's a big problem. What's wrong with trying to regulate?
Ask Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman.
People today is that they get into these government jobs so they can go into the private sector. And how many times have we seen it, right?
I mean, James Kidney goes on to say, he says, I have had bosses and bosses of my bosses whose names we all know, who made little secret that they were here to punch their ticket.
Yes.
They mouthed serious regard for the mission of the commission, but their actions were tentative and fearful in many instances. So the so-called regulators who are supposed to look out for the public interest have been co-opted by the very companies that they're supposed to regulate. And this goes to not just the SEC, but everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, it's across the board in the government. Whatever the regulations are, regulators are, whatever Department of Agriculture Department, whoever it is, they put in their time, they curry favor, and then they're rewarded. And the interesting thing you might think is, well, why should the Wall Street firms give this guy a reward now that he's already done these things for him? This person, or not him specifically, but the other.
All right, I'm going to move along here. It's just disgusting. Speaking of disgusting, look, here's Bill Hinman. This is remember, they in court, the SEC put Bill Hinman in there, and Bill Hinman said that Ethereum free pass speech was his personal opinion. Well, this is from Wheezy. Does this sound to you like a personal opinion? It's all lies, folks.
On the guidance front, the Division of Corporation Finance has been heavily involved for some time. Some of the initial more formal guidance in this area was provided in a joint statement that we and our colleagues in the Division of Enforcement put out in conjunction with the July 2017 Dow Report of Investigation. Since then, we have been providing further guidance through speeches, statements, most recently working with the FinHub to publish the framework for investment contract analysis of digital assets that Val has mentioned. That really is the framework that we use to analyze whether we think an asset may fall within the securities laws, and we shared it to help move that analysis forward.
So it was all a plan, and we've shown it all. Now here's Jeremy Hogan. He's on this Crypto Wendy's show. So watch this clip.
And there's one major reason why I believe that. Ripple wants to do an IPO, and they've said that publicly, and they've said as soon as this lawsuit is over, they're going to do an IPO. Now, if they're going to do an IPO, what do they have to do? They have to register with the SEC anyway, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of it. They can become a publicly traded company. Now, if you were to tell me that they weren't going to IPO, I would be like, well, maybe they're going to take it all the way to the end. But if they have to register anyway, this just becomes a matter of money. You could argue that, whether XRP is a security or not is going to be an issue, and they might move forward on that issue alone. But it doesn't make any sense to me if it's just a matter of money to not work out a number with the SEC where the SEC can claim victory and say, look, we got $100 million from them and they admitted that they did some things wrong 5 years ago, and then clear the way for their IPO because they're going to have to register anyway. So this is not an issue of they don't want to register with the SEC. It's just really an issue of money for me. And that issue is much easier to resolve in litigation than other issues like registration and those type of things.
If the SEC, I don't think Ripple would have any problem with paying money if they get clarity for XRP. Imagine what would happen to the XRP price if they pay. Let's say that Ripple paid the SEC $1 billion, but the SEC said going forward XRP is not a security. Well, $1 billion is chunk change in that context. So that's a thumbnail. $1 billion settlement. Hypothetical. There you go. Now that's good stuff. All right. Let's see. Finally, we've got this. John Deaton. I didn't realize this, but we saw earlier that there was some organization is making it where these regulators can't own crypto or something in order to if they're going to be involved in regulations and legislation. And John Deaton says, you all should know that these rules do not apply to members of Congress. It's how they get to engage in insider trading. And this is Cynthia Loomis, who just put forward the crypto bill. She disclosed that she's got she's got Bitcoin worth up to $100,000, but she's allowed to do it because she's in Congress and can work on the legislation. Pitiful. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Cynthia Loomis can write bills and invest in Bitcoin that will benefit from the bills because she is in Congress and they are special.